Hello and welcome back to Radio Caroline. Josh Holmes-Bright here. And today we're joined by someone who's a real legend. I mean, he defines the word legend, especially here at Radio Caroline. One of the biggest rock stars that the country has ever produced, the man, the myth, the legend, Status Quo's Francis Rossi. Hello, Francis. How are you?
You good. I'm good. You said you was going to make it a big one, and you did. I felt myself flushing up a little bit, but I'm all right now. I'll get over it.
It's a well-deserved introduction, a well-deserved introduction. Thank you for being here on Radio Caroline, where perhaps you're a bit more of a legend than anywhere else, and we'll get onto why in a moment. But being a teenager in the 60s, were you a listener back in the day? Were the Pirates a big thing for you?
Oh, they were it, because the system, as it were, radio, which ended up being Radio 1, was the Light program, which is where I think Jeff Lynne got his Electric Light Orchestra. They had a light orchestra, and it was definitely signified a thing of the past. And it's kind of weird that the rebellious, they were illegal. And I suppose the younger children were like, yeah, it's illegal. But I didn't think it was illegal. It was just where you got to hear the best music. And which is why now you're going to do that in a minute, aren't you? But the radio plays on Caroline. I won't do it again.
Absolutely, we're going to do that. And so listening to the pirate stations, did that have much?
That's what we did. It's what we did. Yeah, that she did. It wasn't long. Oh, I think I listened to the pirate. I listened to Caroline and one or two others, but mainly Caroline. Caroline had the Caroline. That was the Fortunes.
It was, yeah, the Fortunes, Caroline. Yeah, you're right. And a lovely rendition there as well.
It was all of the day. It was great stuff.
It was, yeah. Did it have much of an influence on your musical taste? Were the artists played on Caroline the kind of music that you enjoyed and influenced your music style?
I don't know. I saw there was a pause there and you thought you better fill the gap. He's very good, ladies and gentlemen. No, I think it was current music. And I think that's why the other lot, the mainstream, decided they better call the other thing radio, whatever they called it. I'm not going to say that. And it became the top 40 radio. You played top 40 radio, which is kind of weird because there was a period a little after our initial success that we were trying for. And but it became uncool to like pop music. For some reason, it was and I've lived with that for a long time, trying to say, "Oh, we're not pop. Well, yes, we are." And I love pop music, all sorts of pop music, and the things that enter that genre, whether they want to or not. If by definition, if you suddenly become popular, you're pop music. There can be, I suppose, bubblegum music and sugary and syrupy and little in the middle of the road and all these other things, because we all want to get into our little pockets, which is odd because lots of my generation grew up listening to the Beatles, and the Beatles albums had one of everything. And it wasn't until perhaps 69, 70, 71 that we all began to do certain things and sit in these pockets. You can't imagine Pink Floyd doing Yellow Submarine. Maybe you can. But all these, everybody got into pockets and you couldn't stray. And it's one of the things I find, as much as it's been great being in Status Quo and being loved by people, there is the older we've gotten, the more the tighter the jacket is. People will say to me, "That's not Status Quo," and I think, well, what do you mean? It's not Status Quo. We're all on it, and I'm singing it. But it comes from that thing of, you can't like pop music, surely, but we all like whatever music we like, whomever we are. No, that's good music. The times I've been interviewed by people, particularly European radio, and Dutch being one of them, and a guy said to me one day, he said, "I am like you, Francis. I only like good music." I never said that. I just like what I like. It might have been "shut up in your face," which, because it can be in Italian and we would speak, "shut up in your face." And so certain things appeal. And I think through the 70s, one of the negatives through the 70s and up to the beginning of the 80s, it was a negative in a sense. All this such burgeoning music and so many fabulous bands and acts around, but it made people say, "Oh no, I cannot drift out of." And even the audiences began to be worse, that if they liked gospel or whatever you call any music, they were frightened what it said about them wander off. You can't edit this, can you?
I certainly can, but I don't think we need to. That was brilliant. In terms of the artists in particular as well, I mean, you mentioned the Beatles. Were bands like the Beatles, the Stones, those kind of guys in the 60s, the kind of music that you listened to yourself, the kind of records you went out and bought?
The Beatles particularly, they also did things for all us, because before that we would have to go to a publisher's in Denmark Street, and you have an appointment. You would sit there and they'd ask you what kind of music you played, and that you played your few records, and you took away these songs with you because people in bands surely can't write songs, songwriters write songs. And so the Beatles gave us all that chance to just write. Therefore, we were given contracts. You started signing young people up, and I was one of those at 16. So they did more than just be the phenomenon of the day, and they really, really were. It's very hard to imagine it again, how it happens again, if it happens again. I even think perhaps that recently I was discussing with someone that Taylor Swift may well be bigger than they ever were, but doesn't have it doesn't have the global effect that it had at the time, because it was all so new. It was all so new. It was all. I'm going there. I'm thinking, yeah, it was a completely different than our parents' music or any music. The idea that we would, say when I was 22 or something, 73, be playing music or listening to music that was 40 years old, that'd be silly. It just was silly. Whereas now, we've got radio stations that play particular decades. You've got to start a blues, a country song, pop, and as much as that's good, that us humans, we get so much more choice than we get our tastes. We also lose something. We lose the sense of community. I love the sense of community that the radio stations gave us then, which is why, again, the other lot stepped in and took it, had the coastal coverage, the coast to coast coverage, and took over. But we've got so much choice that you lose the joy of choice. If you got 3 choices, I love that one. If you got 300 choices, I don't know. And that's one of the negatives, if you like, of today.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. But the Status Quo songs, I can tell you, whether they were more along the bluesy line or the rock and roll, whatever it was you'd done, they always got played on Caroline. Even right up to today, you'll be glad to know we play Quo. And you're a listener, are you? You tune in to Caroline when you can?
No, I don't tune into anybody anymore. I'm afraid I kind of somewhat that I said to you about the amount of choice we have. I know in my position I should say, yes, I listen every day, but I'm a terrible fellow of telling the truth sometimes, and I shouldn't. I should just go along with the party line. But I'm a victim of the amount of choice we have. When we're out touring, when I get on the bus can't speak, I get on the bus, and I generally go through the channels on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
You go in A, B, C, all the way through the amount of movies that are on there. And you go, so you go through the box sets and you go through documentaries, and you end up saying, I'm going to play Patience on my iPad. Because I have so much choice, I still keep doing it. And I wonder that, which is why perhaps people will come and listen to Caroline and know what they're going to do. That's what I want. That's me. And I probably would do that. I would shut everything else out and become. And people then say, well, you're a bit, fuddy-duddy, you won't change, you won't. Yeah, I know, but I've spent most of my life chopping and changing, and things have been, this is new, let's go new. So no, let's just go somewhere comfortable. And that's one of the things I like with Caroline. It's comfortable. And whether that's a negative for some people to think, it's tough shit, it's really tough. And I like comfortable.
Absolutely, yeah. And we play good music, as you say, just good music. We don't define.
He's filling in for me here, everybody. You can see what he's doing. We just good music, and the tone on your voice changed. It's fantastic.
Oh well, thank you. But I was saying we obviously always played. I say we. I wasn't there back in the 70s, but and the 80s as well. But they would have. No, of course. But
well, I'm only 51 now. You know.
Well, you don't look a day over. You don't look a day over
21. Oh, yeah, lovely. He's showbiz person. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, no, don't be sorry. Rock and Roll, that's the track we've mentioned once already,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
features that famous line that we love very much. The radio plays on Caroline. I can guess what that's about. Do we get commission on that one?
I don't even know how to spell commission. I do actually. It's hurt me most of my life. I remember I was working with Bernard Frost. I'd living in Ireland, and he came over. I wrote songs with him for a while, and we went up to Dublin and got this little studio. And I was messing around on the piano, and the whole idea of rock and roll came together. The idea that it's rock and roll, and I suppose is what we're saying just now. That it's, the amount of people who are rock and roll, everybody seems to be under that one umbrella now as rock and roll, which was apparently to do with the idea that ships used to rock and roll in the water. Anyway, and I remember the thing I think going through my mind, waiting all the time to find radio plays on Caroline, that it made me smile because I was talking about the song Caroline that we had, and the fact that it was one of those things we would just, I suppose it was the sense you'd made it if you got to Caroline, which was, yeah, that's made you smile a bit, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a
And
fantastic story.
people can't see you, can they?
Well, we'll put this out on YouTube as well. Very technical,
Oh, as long as
very
I don't have to
modern.
see it. No, don't tell me that. Yeah, I can't.
See your face as well. But no,
Ah,
that's a brilliant story. I didn't realize it was about the song Caroline as well. That one, just Caroline itself. Was that about the station? Was that about someone in particular? What was that one about? Because that was one of the big hits. That was one of the first
no,
big
I
ones.
don't. It just when Bob Young and I were writing it, we were with our wives. We'd gone in a holiday somewhere in Cornwall or somewhere like that, and we'd had the overall song together, and it was a shuffle. Dum, 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 dum. Maybe I want to turn me on to. It was that night. And it turned into it later turned into a straight and but we got all this thing. If you want to turn me on to anything you really want to turn me on to, you're that sweet. And yeah, and very much led by Bob Young, the style of the lyric. But we got to the chorus, and it was come on, and we kept saying, and we're getting through it. And once we got Caroline, which suited the melody, then it went back into the song. And but also we got to a line, take my hand, together we can. He said rock and roll. I said, no, you can't. That's such a hackneyed phrase, even then. And if you think how many times it's been used and is still used, and we still have that. It's funny, I do the tour, I do we call the tunes the last one. One was the Talk Too Much tour, but the tunes and chat tour, and the next one we've got going out next year, you do a Q&A, and I might say something that's kind of risque or talking about one's behavior when one was younger. Do you like that? I've met royalty when one has, and they go, oh, and I always think, you're always going on about rock and roll, yeah, rock and roll. And when we actually talk about, oh, no, it's terrible. So I find there's this sort of duplicity going on with the audience where it's, yeah, oh, no. Unless they're all getting older now. I think they possibly are. Because I realise most of them come to see me now because they can sit down. And you get the people with the prostate problem running out, and I wait for them. And never mind. You haven't got there. You wouldn't know what that is yet.
You've really sold the tour.
All the prostate people, Craig, that'll do it. Yeah, go we go down there for a pee. Let's go and see him.
We will talk about the tour. There's obviously lots of fantastic stuff on it. You need to give yourself a bit more credit, especially those songs as well. But another one, Rocking All Over the World, to add, maybe this will be the highlight of the 50, 60-year career, Rocking All Over the World. That was the first song I ever played on Radio Caroline when I was a mere 16-year-old. So
yeah, it was a song that we used to record in Portland Place, IBC Studios, and Rick used to drive down the A3, and he couldn't do it now, I don't think. He'd pick up hitchhikers. They seemed to be about at the time. And he'd obviously, it was before the days drink drive and all that stuff went on. And he came back and told us his story. He's driving past, saw a fella thumb in a lift. So, and he backed up. Bear in mind, it would have been dead at that time of night in those days. And he backed up and went to open the door and let this guy get in the car, and it was a letterbox. And he realised, I better put the radio on and then he heard the track "Rocking All Over the World" by Creedence Clearwater. And it's weird because we worked together recently, and we're the only acts that's ever had success with that song. Everybody else just had a problem with it, and it was. Again, when one talked to the audience and they're all going rock, people do rock. I don't know why they can't just go rock. I like rock. They all go rock, and yet, and you play these festivals sometimes. We did a load this summer through Europe, big hairy festivals and tattoos and hairy and ugly pictures and stuff. And you see when we do Rocking All Over the World, people, and I like it, I like it. I'm thinking, I don't see where this becomes rock, but it's a strange song to be that big, and yet to have that giddy up, giddy, and yet what the all these contradictions going on in rock and roll. There's nothing hairy about it at all, but it really, really works, and it's just one of those things that really, really works. And I don't really understand why. Glad it did.
Of course, yeah, and you're right. It does work. It's one that certainly gets the crowd going as well. It's a wonderful, wonderful record.
You don't mean leaving, do you? You don't mean that gets them going. No. It's done that once or twice, but never mind.
I can't imagine it has. You can't have people walking.
I'm in show business. I'm making up as I go along.
Fair enough. It's the way to do it. It's the best way to do it. Now, we mentioned 3 of your big hits there, but it wasn't just 3 hits you had. 57 is the number I've got here. You had 57 top 40 hits here in the UK as Status Quo. That's an incredible number. 22 of those were top 10 singles, which puts you, get this, above the Rolling Stones. It puts you above ABBA, and it puts you above Diana Ross, just to name a few. Why do you think... I would
love to be put above Diana Ross, but let's not go there. I think she's gorgeous. It's interesting, the stats. I love stats. I have a friend that says there are lies, damn lies, than statistics, particularly in politics. But it's interesting. I think we released 100 and something singles, 101, 102 singles. Wow. But basically, our winning rate wasn't very good, was it? Only half of them got there. So if we were actually, I said, I'll go and shoot it. You missed half of the bloody things, didn't you? So, but I tend to do that when we get stats put to us, say how wonderful it's been. I like to try and temper it somewhat because you keep feeding my ego and it will go. And I really do not want to get any more big-headed than I already am. It's a problem.
I think you deserve to give yourself some credit. I mean, 57 top 40 singles.
Not bad.
It's pretty good. It's more than most.
Yeah, but what's really interesting about this, you want more. And people don't quite understand that.
Okay.
There's something in it that you just... I always imagine this donkey. We were taught at school, donkey with a carrot on the end, and it's trying to get this carrot. So the bloody thing will carry what they stuck on his back. So he just keeps following the carrot. And I think I've been doing that since the very first hit. And I wonder what it would be like if you reached the carrot. And suddenly everything just goes, oh. And I don't really want to... Where have you gone?
I've disappeared.
You have? Who the frig touched anything here?
I don't think that was you.
No, I don't think it was me. Nothing there.
Oh, there we go. I'm back. Not sure what that was.
So start video. That's it.
Yeah, you're back. Anyway,
I wonder what happens when one reaches the carrot. So one of the things that's really, really great about this business is that you just can't do another. And at the same time, it's damn frustrating because I never get there.
Right.
But the problem, as I said, is what happens if we get there. All of us. What happens when we finally get there? Oh, I don't know. Don't do that to me. So here I am at 51, as I said, still trying to do more. Still trying to do more. I'm sitting here talking to you, trying to promote a tour that goes next year, and looking at the following year, and you think, why is that? I don't know. It's the thing that's kept me going, but it's the thing that's terminally frustrating at the same time.
That's really interesting.
Relativity is like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
We don't. Yeah. Which is, when we talk about world problems, I'm about to. You just end up with imbalance. As soon as there's an imbalance, Just goes pear-shaped. Next.
Of course.
Don't get too close, don't worry.
We don't need to do politics or
Oh,
anything like
no,
that.
we don't.
We best not do that.
Mm.
Back in the days of some of those early hits in the 60s, you know, Ice in the
Yeah.
Sun and all of those. Did you think at the time you'd have had hits, you'd have made a career out of making music?
No, as soon as we had our first song, which was I Who Have Nothing, was a cover of a Shirley Bassey song, a Shirley Bassey record. Then we did a song of Alan Lancaster wrote called Hurdy Gurdy Man. One of those, everything was like that then. And then we did a cover of a band called Blues Magoos, and the cover was We Ain't Got Nothing Yet. And then I wrote a song called Almost But Not Quite There. And then I wrote a song called Pictures of Matchstick Men. So there was I Have Nothing, Hurdy Gurdy Man, We Ain't Got Nothing Yet, Almost But Not Quite There. And then came Matchstick Men. And as soon as Matchstick Men, it was a great learning curve, because I always imagined that showbiz, here it is. Isn't it lovely? Well, we don't see what's back here. You know those gowns that people wear in hospital are all covered up lovely, but their bums hanging out of the back.
Yeah.
That's show business, really. You do not want to go around the back there. And
Okay.
very quickly I realised that, I remember I haven't done Top of the Pops second or third time. I'm waking up at home in bed with my wife, and nothing had changed. And that's that. You think everyone's going to be changed, and everyone's going to be smiling, and mum and dad are great, and the wife's great. No, everything's exactly the same, except you sold some records. And from then on, that's good for me, because one of the things that I discovered with Rick much later in life is that show business has been a letdown for him. Whatever he was looking for or was told was there, obviously wasn't. And he found that terminally frustrating. I'm okay with it, because it's like you were talking about the fabulous stats. I say, yeah, they're really good. However, to balance that, 50% of those records didn't hit the top 40. Oh yeah, so it's a balance. All this. If I don't balance it, I get really carried away with myself. It's very easy to do that. And he's a dickhead. I know him, honestly. Yeah.
Right. Well, there you go. It's good to stay humble and down to earth. So I suppose that's a good way of thinking about it.
Well, that humble sounds like I'm working at it. It's just safe. I don't want to go that route. And I've met a few people that are think they're very special. Yeah. And we're not. The only thing that makes us special is the fans. Without them, we're kind of not in a very good place. And another thing I'd like to tell the audience is that they tend to think we're wonderful. You happen to like us, me, whomever it is, and that we think everything about my life and whomever I am, or we are, and whoever they are wonderful. Well, it's obvious that some of them are sexual deviants and so on, are very nice people, aren't they? And I suppose that's the child in me thinking, why isn't everybody lovely as I thought? No, again, the balance is there. If they were all lovely, it couldn't be real.
I suppose that's very true. Yeah.
Are you tired yet? You look really very fresh.
Wide awake.
You are.
I'm really sorry, but I've got some more statistics. I wish I knew in advance.
Oh, you go for it.
I didn't like this, but I think this is incredible. Top of the Pops, you appeared more than any other band on Top of the Pops, 106 times. A lot of bands and artists famously didn't enjoy going on Top of the Pops because of lip syncing and things like that. Did that not bother you too much?
Let me tell you, most times people say that. I think they're lying, because you work really hard to make the record, and quite a few times when you've done live and then you hear it, you think, oh, that surely wasn't what went out, and it was. So to try and mime and be safe, that meant you would get there at 10 in the morning, do umpteen run-throughs. Well, if you had to do live run-throughs all the time, it wasn't until much later in our career that it was kind of acceptable, that technology was such that it was was good enough to record it and to play it again and to do it again. But I found it very difficult at first. Didn't like being on TV, but again, I suppose I decided I was going to learn this stuff. I've got American cousins. This stuff. And I think I wanted to learn it. And when I was a young kid, I always wanted to be older, whether that was to have the wisdom in certain or what it was. But so I always wanted to learn about the business, show business, both sides of it. I was talking to my agent here the other day, and he was talking about how so many people, they need to learn the business of the music business. Some people say, or the show business. Some musicians say they're not in show business, and I always wonder, what are you doing on the stage? I don't. You're on stage showing off, but you're not in show business. I don't. And then others just say, no, I'm a musician. Well, you need to understand the business of it. There's a cake. We divide that cake into pieces, and it's the promoter, the agent, the manager, all come out of that cake. So you have to be careful what's happening with the cake. Otherwise, you get paid last, which is, is it? And guess what? There's none left. So you don't want to be in that position. So all those things I wanted to learn as I was growing up about showbiz. And as much as at times I went into my publishers, I said I was signed at 16. And just after Matchstick meant I went in for some reason. One guy was called Fred Faber and one was called Ronnie Scott. And I got on very well with Ronnie Scott. And I said, well, how much do I make per song, And they told me how much it was at the time. And I thought, well, I'm never going there again. Because if you quickly do the math, you think, is that it? See, I'm married to a Yank. Did you hear that? I said math, not maths. And you quickly do that and it's a downer. So I didn't want to see it as a downer. I would keep part of and I was always very excited. One of my daughters used to say to me recently in the last few years, had mentioned, what was it like when she said they suddenly get interested in you for a bit? And what was it like? I said, well, the thrill of finding out that you sold, we would phone up so many times a day and find out what the sales figures were. And that was such a thrill. She said, what, the money? I said, no, because if you found out what the money, but your piece take was, it was disappointing. So I let that go and just said the thrill of generating that kind of business, because I grew up in an retail environment, and in the middle of the summer, when those particularly blazing days, which is why I hate them, my parents and they worked until 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And so we often, myself and my brother and my cousins, a few of us, we would sit outside this small factory in South London, and we'd see them come back and get more, and off they'd go again. And it was almost, you got the thrill, the excitement that this is so good, because it means because we stopped work after the summer and sailed through the winter and living on what you doing in the summer. So you sensed there was a sense of joy from them. And so that transferred to me when I was younger of turnover. Turnover is fantastic. What one's piece isn't always that fantastic.
No, of course.
How much of this you're going to chop out? I could stop talking. No, you've had it. You shouldn't have got on. I'll be talking. At what time is it? It got till 5 o'clock, I believe. I saw the panic on your face then.
It's a nice long interview, that. So you mentioned obviously income and generating money there, but one of the biggest performances, perhaps the biggest performance you ever done, was for free. That was Live Aid, of course. And we had Midge Ure on a couple of weeks ago. He was saying that Bob Geldof took his fishing rod and he said he went fishing for the world's biggest stars. And of course, threw his fishing rod in your direction, so to speak. And how were you approached for Live Aid?
Who is this Midge Ure on? I've never heard. I know Midge, but I don't know Midge Ure on. Sorry. Yeah, well, that story is interesting because Bob has a different story than most of us. And we were in Phonogram, our record company at the time. Rick and I, it was a summer, we were off, which was unusual. And we might have been doing promo, and in came Bob with upstart, Irish upstart. Fine. And that's how he appeared to us. It was just a new breed coming through.
Yeah.
And he came in and said, what? And he went on about some gig, and we said, well, no, thanks, we're not interested. Thank you very much. See you later. And off he went. And a couple of weeks later, we happened to be there again, and he came in again. And he said that, I need somebody older acts, smooth talking. And he said, I'll get one or two of you to sign. I later found out that He said that to lots of people in the Who and whomever else. And if you can get one or two of you. And I said, look, we're not getting along with the man. He said, it doesn't matter how much you sound like. He spoke very clearly as well. And so he got everybody involved, and I give him his credit for doing that. Midge put it very, very well, very showbiz. That Mr. Euron fella, Midge Euron. I always call him Smudge, like I've pissed pronunciation and his worms. And but Bob, as I said, to me, upstart, loudmouth, all that stuff. But what a guy to get away and pull that off.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's another fine thing that I think happened to me as I was growing up. And kids today were told, you're so good, darling. So darling waits there to be seen. We were told we were no good at all. So you fight. And with Bob, everyone said, no, thanks, Bob. And his generation had just heard of the third world famine, it would seem. Whereas when I was growing up, I came through Catholic schools. We heard about that every single year. And we collected anybody that went to Catholic school would have had these little boxes that you collected money in. And because my dad was in ice cream, we got extra boxes. So we had to, but so his generation didn't know about third world. So credit to him for push. I was just ashamed in a sense that at the time there was a big British Airways ad on that was cost about 2 million to make, and I remember thinking that seemed to be a lot of money then, and that they had to book the slots and stuff, and I just thought, there's an airline telling you they're the world's favorite airline. I don't know anybody that phones up and said, I'd like to fly on so and so, just get me the cheapest flight to so and so, whatever it is for so and so. You might stop that you want to fly some of those Arab airlines, which is wonderful. But so, and the same with Shell or BP or whomever. Oh, buy our petrol, it makes your car go. I think, well, why can't you put that in budget? And I think as well, big business at the time thought, don't worry, these assholes of pop music will go away. And it did in the end. I think they gathered about 80 million or so, which when you think of that now, you go, oh. So I've said big business could have really got behind that, and we could have made a really a lot more money than that. But going back to the beginning, all credit to Bob Geldof for being a loudmouth upstart.
There you go. That's all you need to do. That's all
don't worry. He has a go at me. He's good.
There you go. That's all right then. And if we go from that's 1985, that was all the way up to present day, so nearly 40 years later, you're back on the road next year after wrapping up a Status Quo tour this summer.
As I've been in this business this long, I realise now you're about to wrap up. You're running out of time, and you've got to get to the plug. You see that, ladies and gentlemen. You're not allowed to say
you've been in the business long enough.
I have too long. Yes, we just finished touring this summer. It's one of the best tours I've ever done with the band. I think most enjoyable, which is good because I don't think we will go again. And I've got this. As I said, the first one was called Talk Too Much, which I enjoyed. Then it was Tunes and Chat. I like to talk, and I overrun too long, and I talk too much. You notice that? And now it's got the longest title on the planet, I think. And I can't even remember what it is, but you can say, come on.
It was quite long, but I briefened it down to an evening with Francis Rossi. That's what the short of it was, but it's a bit longer than that.
Make people sick, wouldn't it? Who want to spend an evening with that dickhead? Hopefully it will be really good. The last 2 or 3 have been really good. I really enjoyed them. There's a Q&A in the second half. I'm supposed to go on at 7:30 and come off at 8:15 for a break. But invariably I go on till 8:45 because I talk too much. And I'm extending more and more songs, and I'm trying stuff that really I haven't done before, although it says that in the blurb. And there's the things someone show me home. If you're a Folk Quo fan, they may know that, and all we really want to do. And various songs I keep posting stuff on. That's posting stuff, see?
That's it, yeah.
And asking people which songs they like, and it will help make whatever the set's going to be at that time. It will consist of stuff that I did that has been the set last time, and some additions, and a Q&A. And hopefully I'll live through it.
Well, it's going to be fantastic. And most of the dates have sold out. Oh, thank you.
Yes, it's doing very well. Yes, I'm surprised. I'm very surprised, but it's doing very well.
Yeah, it is. And there are some remaining dates with tickets left, and you can find the information and links to buy tickets at francisrossi.com. We'll have a competition here on Radio Caroline soon as well for some tickets to give away, which is great.
Giveaway? Sorry. I got
us...
upset there for a moment. Sorry.
We've got all of our listeners who've grown up, loving your tunes.
Tell them they can sit down at this gig as well instead of standing there for hours till we come on.
Sit down and go to the toilet as well.
Only some of them.
Just some. It sounds like it's going to be great. I wish you all the best, and I thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for letting me waffle on. I could go on a little longer, but it's going to cut out any second, isn't it?
And you've got lots more to say on the tour. They've got to pay for the privilege.
Oh, very good. You can come work for me anytime you like.
Oh, it would be a pleasure. Thank you very much, Francis.
Bye now.